Hello everybody, good evening or good morning. Welcome, do come in. As last time in episode 1, I invited you all into round the fire. So I've got the fire burning again. Please do come in. Last week we were talking about renewal, time of renewal. And this week today is the start of a cleansing period for me during the year. And it carries on for a month. So I knew this cleansing period was coming up, and I've had an extraordinary week, which I want to share with you today. And I should have known that something quite epic was going to happen. Because I knew once I'd started off this podcast and the radio show, certainly with episode 1, having got out of the way, I really got, I had the shakes when I'd finished, and I thought, oh no, I've like really unleashed something. So I just want to talk you through my week. Christian, I think Olivia is going to put his picture up there, has been, he wanted to lead this show, and I don't know if he's going to come through me and talk, but you will hear his influence through the show. I've already pre-recorded something which happened this week. His influence is definitely in there, but there's a few things I need to explain before we start. So at the beginning of the week, I work with a lady called Natasha Harris, who will come on the show later in the season. And we were doing this energy activation this week, because it's the right time to be doing that kind of thing. And I got this word storyteller that kept coming through to me. And I was thinking, okay, well, I always thought Christian was a storyteller because he told me his story. And I was thinking, this is a bit strange. So only this storyteller came through. And then also I got this information about Christian taking the lead, and he wants to kind of tell a story. And then I was hearing that I had to actually rest and take a seat and stop carrying everybody. And I didn't really understand that. I mean, we're in the middle of lockdown. We have kids at home. It's all quite hectic at home, but I didn't really completely understand it. But the thing with the cleansing time is that it's a time for clearing out all the gunk. And I know we asked at the beginning of episode 1 about what are you missing? What do you need to find? And it's not always obvious. I suspect some of you sat there thinking, well, most things are okay. There might be some very obvious things that you want to find and you know that are missing, but often you're not really sure. And it could be just a little feeling of being lost slightly. But anyway, this clarity, for me, I thought I was pretty, okay. And that's why I was starting this podcast. But I found out with a little bit more clearing that there were a couple of things that still needed to be released, which you'll find out as we go along. The other thing I need to just tell you about is, okay, I need to tell you how Christian died, and I need to tell you what he and I have done over the time. Now, when I say Christian was a storyteller, we did trance mediumship sessions. We did them live on Facebook, so they're there to view. They're on our YouTube channel, The Finder of Lost Things. And during those sessions, Christian was able to tell me like everything that had happened to him. And I'm going to give you a very quick rundown. And I actually sat down and downloaded this story on Tuesday after this last program. And I was listening and I was thinking, well, this is Christian's story. So I'll just tell you quickly the story. Christian was, he would describe it. It came through as he was tired of life. He was like bound up. He'd kind of got himself into a rut, I guess, which a lot of us do in our life. And he wasn't really sure what he was he knew he was supposed to be doing something, but he couldn't quite get hold of what it was. So there was this kind of grief in him that, he wasn't really doing what he was supposed to be doing. And Christian and I, we were very parallel actually in our lives. I was also not sure about what I was doing, and I'd actually moved to Cornwall, which is very relevant as the time goes on in this episode. So I'd moved to Cornwall, and Christian was he'd come back from he'd been in the Caribbean for a long time, and he'd come back, and he was now kind of not totally sure what was going on. Projects weren't quite going forward as he wanted to, and he was looking for something else. But we were never really aware of that. He actually called it like a pain behind the mask. I think with a lot of people, you have a sort of mask that you give to the world, but actually underneath, there's not everything is okay. And Christian latched onto this Mungo Park, who I want to talk about more at another time. But he was late 17th century explorer, and Christian kind of just it was almost like a destiny moment when he started to read about Mungo, and he was like, oh my god, this boy is the same age as me, we're so similar, blah blah blah. And he knew it was going to be an impossible task almost, this trip to Africa that he did, and he was really reaching for the impossible. He had his goals, and he was like, it was totally sold on him, and it was something that he was really drawn to, he was really yearning for. And it was like Mungo came into view, and his prayers were sort of answered. And it was a destiny moment, it really was. And I'm sure for everybody listening, you can think of moments in your life where that was destiny. You were either going to go this pathway or this pathway, and it just sort of fell into place. And for Christian, it really did fall into place. And Africa was calling, he tells me, and the red earth, there's this thing about this red earth and this the sort of tribal power that Africa had over Mungo, and it was kind of like attracting Christian as well. And he was able to, it was going to be a trip where he could really spread his wings, and he would be, it was an opportunity of a lifetime. He kept saying about an opportunity of a lifetime, that he was really going to make his name, he was really going to make his mark. He had the film cameras, he had a book deal that he was going to write about his story. And then, yeah, over several months, it started to go wrong for him. And I'm not going to repeat the story because it's all in the films. But essentially, Christian ended up, he drowned, and he was unconscious. He was drowned by somebody, or by a ringleader and others. And part of the story with Christian and I is that I was able to bring him home from Africa. So it's called psychopomp. It's like a removal of the soul, or taking the soul into the light from the darkness. So it's again, it's like Christian's saying, it's like a cleansing of a life, and you move them from the darkness into the light. So I have to just be very clear on that to start with. What's the other thing that I have to be very clear on? No, he's just saying that's all okay. So on Monday after the show, my laptop packed up, and I couldn't do anything. So on Tuesday morning, I sat down and started to download this story, which I've just told you, which was Christian's story. And then a few days later, I had a session, my penultimate session actually, with a client called Ursula. And she'd been with me, coming to see me we'd been working together for a couple of months. She was healing the I don't want to say loss, because he's not lost, as she knows as well, but the loss of her father from the physical. And this was 18 years ago. So it's been a really, really deeply held grief that has she's been unable to shake it, or move past it at all, even, actually. But Ursula's an amazing soul healer, and it was just with her father, she was just unable to even do her own healing on that. And like myself, where I work with somebody else, as healers, and in any in fact any profession really, it's always good to have a colleague that you can work with and bounce ideas off, and if you get stuck you can always talk. So anyway, on Wednesday morning I had this session with Ursula, and it was very obvious that something was brewing, and I'd even that morning pulled the tarot card for the session, which was the Two of Wands, which is all about partnerships and collaboration and moving in passion in a way. And it became so obvious that there was something brewing that even I didn't know was coming up. And I was like, it's something to do with your work, Ursula, and it's moving away from what you normally do to something else. And I just couldn't work out what it was, and I wasn't being given anything. And then we started the session, and Ursula went, oh, like I feel I need to do some soul healing. And I was like, oh, okay, all right. And we kind of both closed our eyes, and the sessions, I always record them, so you're going to hear part of our session. I have to tell you something that happened before the part you hear. She started to move towards the ocean. So she was just in meditation, doing a soul healing, and she was talking about a shipwreck that she needed to go and visit. She was with her father, and he was taking her to a shipwreck. And I don't want to go into too much detail, but there was a young boy there, like a cabin boy, I suppose. He was an orphan, and the main thrust of the story was that he had drowned, but he was on board this ship. We couldn't work. We thought it was sort of tropical waters, but I had in my head, because I was sort of viewing it at the same time, I had in my head that it was a sort of Cornish seascape. So it was all very confusing. But this little boy was telling a story, and essentially it was Christian's story. So this, metaphorically, so there was this orphan boy, and he had been drowned. He was stuck in the physical as an energy. His story was that he had gone on board this ship as a means to escape his life. He thought this life was going to be one of adventure and riches, I guess, in the end. He put his trust into people, and like with this real energy of optimism for the future. Unfortunately, he put his trust into the wrong people, and he was used by them rather than being given what he was promised or what he expected. So that's like big. I was just listening to this going, wow, this is Christian. This is the story I downloaded the day before. I was like, wow, this is Christian. And then Ursula carried on, and the whole session turned to me. So I'm just going to ask Olivia if she could play this. It's about 16 minutes long. This is recorded of our session. So this is this week on Wednesday with Ursula. And if you hear snoring in the background, it's Ursula's bulldog called Isabella, but you'll hear comes kind of snuffling along. But I just would really like you to listen to this and kind of take it in, and it will show you what I had been missing. It kind of gives the clarity of what I was still looking for and what I needed to find. And Ursula and her father were the ones to do this for me. So I'll just leave you to enjoy this piece. Christian comes in. It's emotional. I just, yeah, you'll all get something from this. Just listen to the story and see what strikes you. But I shall join you when it's finished. Okay, thanks very much, Olivia.
So Hannah, they're showing me you now. So we're doing our thing. So there's from the same place though. So there's one woman there's one soul that's entrapped. So I'm just asking why she not been released from this already, from what we've just done. And they're saying, you need to unlock her, Hannah, you yourself. Because she's saying to me that she has always been damned and doomed. That this was her penance, that this was this is the only and this is the righteous way for her to die. And she has not been able to forgive herself and allow herself to be healed as a result of that. So they're saying, Hannah, that this needs to be healed now. Are you there? You're there.
Yeah, I'm here.
To be healed now because the subject of grief will eventually in your life be like paintings on a wall, where you can understand the beauty and the profanity of the art form rather than having to paint and get your hands dirty. It will be something that will decorate your landscape rather than you having to plow the land. That's the metaphor they're saying. So this woman was a prostitute. She was on the ship as a working woman in that capacity. She felt like she had control over men, and yet they had control over her. She had the disbelief that if she consented to this way of life, to her selling herself, that somehow made it easier. Yet she never had a choice in the matter from the caste in life where she was born into. She self-mutilated, so she made herself as physically unattractive as possible to men. And their disgust at her only fueled her belief that was how it was meant to be. So that was her way of gaining power. So men were disgusted at her, yet they longed for her because she was so fierce and so there's something between her ferocity as a lover and her being revolting. And all of these were just so self-destructing. None of these came from who she truly was as a person within her soul. They were just the musings of a woman in absolute despair and desperation. So they want you to just go in there with her. So I'm releasing the sort of latch door that she's underneath. And for you to go in there, because she's got a part of your soul in her heart. And you need to have a conversation with her.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm hearing my daughter, because I'm in the basement and I can hear my daughter walking around on top of me. So it does actually feel like I'm in the bottom of a ship, there's people walking above me. Okay, let's see if I can find her. I can feel like there's a heaviness right in front of me. It's like a okay, does she have a name?
It's like Margaret or Maria, something with an M.
Margaret means something to me.
Okay, Margaret. So she's saying that I fear freedom. It's the only thing I ever longed for, but I fear it. And she says, you will understand that. You understand that more than anyone.
Yeah. Probably more so now, actually, when I'm actually being handed that way of being free, totally. So what do I need to know? How can we help each other, I guess, is the question, isn't it?
So she's saying, I'm asking her, she's saying, help me. Shame. She says it's shame. She feels shame. And and she feels that what she has done is undeserving of love. I'm seeing you holding her hand, sitting next to her. You're not even saying anything. You're just sitting with her, and she's having her head bowed and she's crying.
Yeah, and that's what I feel.
This is not a woman who's cried. Crying was it's not even for sissies. Crying was for people who had the luxury of crying. She never afforded any of that. She didn't give herself even the thought of giving herself the break to then feel. And she's numbed herself so significantly to life and to pain. That she's now, for the first time, just having the most basic human feeling. I'm going to just let Mother Mary come in. I love her energy. I think she's got such beautiful energy. For the fallen, Mother Mary says to me, she's a fallen soul who has really, really beautiful soul energy. A very immense capacity for love, which was distorted and just broken by how her life turned out and how she had no choice in the matter. Now she was kept in the dark about any aspect of her life, so the choices were made for her. So Mother Mary's just coming in. She's almost undressing her. She's saying she wants to bathe her energetically and heal her body as well as her soul, because her body has been the canvas of her pain or her lack of pain. And she's taking off her dirty clothing and balming her cuts and her bruises and her teeth and her hair. And you're just sitting with her and you're looking at her, and she's allowing you to see her. She's never been looked at by a woman. She's never been cared for by a woman.
Can I just tell you what I'm feeling? I'm literally feel like I'm kneeling down with her and I'm holding her hands, and we've got our foreheads together.
Yeah.
And I'm just witnessing there's no words. It's just
be there.
Yeah.
Be there with her. So she's unfolding herself, becoming younger and younger and younger. It's like she's shedding the years. She's shedding the abortions, the babies, the sex, the homelessness, helplessness, the years. She's shedding the timeline of her trauma until she's just a very, very young baby. And her soul is now ready to, from that place, release. So I see within her heart that purple Metatron color, beautiful one in her heart. And she's saying that this was when I was my truest self. And when I came to be, she said, I've held onto this. This is all I had in my life, was this light in my life, this part of my soul. I want you to have it, Hannah, because you are serving. You understand the thread. You understand how threadbare life can be if you don't step out of your own pain and allow someone to hold out a hand to you and rescue you. She says, you, however, did that for yourself. I want you to have my heart as I have your heart. And your heart kept me safe all this time. They have to be together. So it's not your soul part. There's something separate. It's she wants you to have that from her. So she might have been a stuck soul then that has been around you. But there's something of it's togetherness. It's almost like a sisterhood rather than she's actually from yourself. So she's taking it and placing it within your heart space. And Mother Mary is asking you if she can go and take this baby to the light. and for you to have this soul part within you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just saying yes, bathing her in light and love and acceptance and self-love and health and beauty and all the wonderful things that she didn't experience, that she felt when she was just born and just in the world. So she can go into the light. She's looking over her shoulder and just giggling and gurgling like babies do. And you are taking that light out of that dark place. You are looking around it for the very last time, because neither of your souls will ever go there again. So take yourself as far away from that place as you possibly can. I'll just send light there and take yourself away. You are sitting in front of a grave, your brother's grave. He's saying, see, I told you I'll bring wonders to your life. I have been waiting for you to be ready. To have something so beautiful and pure that is just yours to have and behold. The meadow that you have made for me is a place where I lie on my back in the sunshine and I dream. And in dreaming, you are keeping me alive. And in creating a space for me, you're keeping me in the world. And it's more than any memory or memorial could ever have done for me. You are profound. I continue to live side by side with you, holding your hand, running across the field as we did when we were young. Separate but together, always together. I have immeasurable respect for the woman you are and for the voice that you have given us both. My pertinent sister, interesting word choice.
Yeah.
My proactive, present sister. My baby sis. He's just standing by you. He's looking at your heart space, like really adoringly. Just, you know, when someone looks at you that really knows you, that truly sees you, that you trust to know you and see you. Yeah. He says you don't have to put things by his grave. He's saying to me, you do this energetically. You go and almost adorn a space for him. You put flowers down or energy down, or like a shrine in a way. Oh, Duffy has just come in. He's just saying that they are doing this for you now. They'll come to this place in your heart space. It's like a sacred cove that's been lit by this purple light. A tiny, beautiful, adorned cove in which Duffy will come and leave a ball.
Mm-hmm.
Christian, he's got a necklace. It looks like it's like leather around the neck. The strap is leather, and then it's got a silver shape. I don't know if it's like dragon fire. It's got some other emblem. He's leaving that for you there. He's saying, the fire within you is fierce. So they are coming to bring things to you. They're coming to adorn your shrine. Because you are that person in their life. And he's saying, hold on to everything. And he says that you have been feeling responsible to keep his memory alive, to keep everything about him alive, to not forget anything ever. That you might lose something, or something of his would stop being just because you've forgotten a moment or a sentence or and he says it's all contained within the two of us. He says he shares carrying it with you. He carries all of your things and you carry his, and between the two of you, nothing will ever be lost. And nothing is lost. We echo, and I get the sentence of, we echo into eternity together.
Okay.
And Duffy's just barking and wagging her tail. So I'm going to leave you in your space. I just want to go back with my dad for a second in the boat.
Mm-hmm.
So he's bringing me home. So Hannah, let Christian bring you home. Back to here and back to now. In your space, in your heart space.
Mm-hmm.
The motorbike, he's going to go away now. He just says, I love you over his shoulder. I love you. In such a nonchalant way. Like, I'll see you in 2 minutes' time. Like, he's just going down the road to get some milk and he'll be back in a minute. And my father's doing the same for me. I'm just asking Archangel Raphael just to beam some green light into all of our hearts, you and me and Duffy and Christian and my father. And the beautiful Margaret that we released. Just feeling the healing from a heart space. Where feeling holds no fear. Where the heart is at the center. Okay.
Oh my goodness. Thank you.
Oh, we're back in, you're listening to The Finder of Lost Things with me, Hannah Velton. I've listened to that quite a few times this over the last few days. Just trying to let that kind of settle in. There's so much in that Ursula was bringing forward, which I would like to pad out a bit now for the rest of the episode, because there's lots of things that kind of need to be explained. That it was almost like this healing pulled the last few strings together for me. I know at the end of the last episode we said that our story's not complete because we're still looking for, or we're still waiting for Christian's camera cards to come back to us. But aside from that, there's a few things I'd just like to tell you about. So first of all, I'm having problems with the internet as well tonight. I think there's just so much activity around today, certainly today. It's just knocking it out sometimes, but hopefully it'll be right. The idea of the stuck souls, earthbound souls. Christian was an earthbound soul. As I said before, he also drowned, which is why we were at the shipwreck. He was unconscious when he drowned, so he didn't actually know that he had drowned. His body knew he'd drowned, but he didn't. His consciousness didn't. We weren't aware of that for a long time, but again, that's all in our story. But this being stuck and not being able to move to the light has followed me for years and years and years. So Margaret, I believe, has been with me for years. In 2016, my husband and I went to Bristol to look at, and during our trip there, we went on the SS Great Britain, which was, I think it was a steamer, and it was a steamer ship, and it was initially brought into service to travel from Liverpool to New York and do that trip. And then in time it then started to go from the UK to Australia and take immigrants into Australia. Now when I went on this ship, it's dry docked. It had been salvaged, and it was in dry dock. I literally could not walk in a straight line on this ship. I was waving all over the place. It was literally like I was on the sea, and my husband was just like, what are you doing? And I really could not walk properly, and just going down into the you go down into the different levels, right down into the bowels of the ship where they keep where they had the livestock, and you have and then above that you had the kitchens and all the servant quarters, and the whole way through, yeah, I just was moving all over the place and I couldn't understand it. And I actually came off the ship and I said to the lady at the entrance to the ship, I said, do many people experience this strange rocking? And she went, no. Anyway, thinking about it now, I do believe that was that would have been Margaret, and I suspect she kind of joined me then. When you're when you do what I do, you do get souls attracted to you. I've had this so much this or even the last 3 or 4 years, and I've had a lot of souls who have died in drowning. Obviously I have a resonance with that, and with Christian obviously, and with that way of dying. I'd actually looked back and found some, I'd already done a release from souls that I was holding on to or had attracted to me back in 2019, and I actually removed loads of children that Christian had sent to keep me company. I was like, thanks Christian, but I think we need to release them now, thank you. And there was one of the children was actually she wouldn't leave and she wanted to stay with me, and she'd also drowned and lost her brother at the same time, but we were able to explain to her what was going on and actually move her into the light. So I have history with this. The other thing that I really need to explain is when I was saying I was downloading Christian's sort of story on Tuesday, the day before I had this this amazing healing. I was sort of telling Christian's story, and then I got stuck on the thought that why didn't Christian and I spend more time together when he was still alive? You know, I went to Cornwall. He was always off traveling. We literally missed each other for years. We'd go to uni, you know, then we'd go traveling, we'd move house. It was ridiculous. And actually, one of the last times I saw Christian, in fact, it could have been the last time we spent time together, Dad actually said, you know, you two should really spend more time together because you just don't see each other. Yeah, so there was this, and we'd never really had an honest conversation for years. I mean, we sent emails and letters weekly, but to have that, I didn't know what was behind the mask, behind Christian's mask. I don't think many people did. I think he was he was not good at letting people in, and I had that, as I was thinking about it, I had that shame, and I actually started to shake as I was writing notes about you know, why on earth didn't we talk to each other more? Why didn't we tell each other the truth? Because I was lost at the time as well. You know, and that self blame is like the heaviest cross to bear. It really is, and it's like punishing yourself. And yeah, as I was saying, I was starting to shake as I was writing it, and I thought, right, I'm going to stop now because this is too upsetting. And I knew it wasn't true. I knew I shouldn't have that shame because of everything I'd done with Christian and to tell his story. And we'd really cleared all that gunk, as I was talking about before, between us. You know, I knew everything about him. I knew everything that was behind the mask. I knew the true Christian. So I knew at that time that something was big was kind of coming, and this is obviously what has come up. Being able to sit with Margaret is like similar to what I've done with Christian. And you know, I've been a ghostwriter of memoirs for a long long time as well. And when you truly sit with someone and you truly hear their story, they feel seen and they feel relieved. You know, a lot of the ghostwriting I did for people, they just wanted to tell me their deepest, darkest secrets. And a lot of the time it was, you can't put that in the book, but it was just, I need to tell you this. I want to tell you this. And, in this times of COVID, it's like getting harder and harder to do the face-to-face talks with people, and the real unburdening that I think we probably are all calling out to do. I know obviously Margaret was, and just listening to people and truly being seen is so massive, and so many souls and spirits stay very attached to earth because they have things they want to say, they want to explain things. Christian, the big thing with Christian was that he wanted to explain himself, and he wanted to, what are you going to say? He wanted to unburden himself. He wanted to tell the story. He wanted the mystery to be solved so that we could all, he's given, and this is the other thing with Margaret, is that she feared the freedom, and she had the shame as well. And it's like, can I really be free? This is me speaking now. Can I really be free of this? And can I really be free of feeling like I need to help everybody and help all the spirits that come to me? I do feel I've now, Margaret was the last one that was sitting with me, and I do feel like I have this pure heart now, that it's not my responsibility anymore. There are souls that are calling out. We've talked in the first episode, we talked about us in our human lives, but this is really from the other side of the coin, from Christian's side, from the souls and the spirits who, we will all become souls and spirits. We will. And it's almost Christian's just saying don't end this life being burdened. Let out your heart, have a pure heart. And if that means having somebody sit and listen to what you want to say, say it. Be honest with people, show people your true self. Christian was always scared about showing me and people around him his true self, but he's just saying that the unburdening, and that it kind of it gives you freedom. It really does. And I think probably for me to have freedom from this, that's gonna I can just feel myself the wings unfurling, because there's been a lot of responsibility I felt. And you get souls and spirits that come in, and I can't often pass on messages. I can't often help them, because the people they want to connect with and talk to and explain, they're not open to it, or they don't want to hear the truth, or they don't want to face it. And I'm being released from that responsibility. There's so many around me now. It's they can stay around me, but they can't come into me. This is my sacred space now. This is where I get my gifts from, Christian. And Duffy is our family dog. I talked about her in the first episode. We had to put her to sleep on Christmas Day, but this is my space now in my heart for Christian and Duffy and all my ancestors. And this is not a place for any stuck souls. Souls can stay on the outside, and if they want to draw in their people to me, to this podcast, I don't know, to this show, by all means, please do. But yeah, it's like I've been released from that, which is amazing. The other thing I need to quickly talk about is, hang on, there's something here. Just the thing about the shipwrecks. I said to you, I moved down to Cornwall. I went down in 2001, I think it was, and I made the decision to move down to Cornwall because I was also running away. I guess I still hadn't found the right niche for me. I knew what I was doing wasn't the right thing, and I made the decision to move down to Cornwall. I was sitting on the beach with my partner then, at Trevance Cove near St Agnes, so that's North Cornwall, and I just felt completely at home there by the sea, and swore that I was going to move to Cornwall. And in fact, within a matter of months, we had actually moved to Cornwall. But that coastline of the North Cornwall was an absolute magnet for shipwrecks. And there's this book here, this guy here. He's called, well, he was known as Hawker of Morwenstow. I hope I've pronounced that right. And it just says that there were no fewer than 81 vessels cast ashore at or around Bude between 1824 and 1874, like the westerly gales swept across the Atlantic with stupendous fury in the winter. And it's almost like I knew I was supposed to be in Cornwall, and I knew I needed to be by the sea. And at that time, Christian had started to think about going on this Africa trip. And yeah, it all ties in somehow. The other thing I wanted to just talk about was the meadow that Christian talked about. So we don't have a grave for Christian. It's a metaphorical grave, the meadow that we have. It's actually our father who decided to keep some land, and he named it Christian's Meadow, and is managing it as his meadow. So it's lovely to know that Christian, I mean, I knew he knew about it, but it's lovely to hear that he's enjoying his space, and it is a beautiful meadow. Yeah, it's I just have to almost now view him being in that meadow. That the calling is for me to see him in that meadow, and to not have any thought of him, you know, in the water in Africa, surrounded by essentially people that he or like the boy on the ship, people that he trusted, that it was misplaced trust. And something else is coming. When I was moving Christian, or bringing him back from Africa, I also had he also had a soul part which was trapped within the body of the person, the ringleader who'd been responsible for his death. And Christian and I actually had to go to Africa to retrieve. So a bit like what Ursula was doing with the soul healing, we actually had to retrieve Christian's missing pieces from this man. And actually this man, he appeared in our trance medium sessions. He'd actually passed over as well by the time we did the sessions. And he was a stuck soul at that point, because he had been responsible for a death, and he was he'd not been able to move from the dark into the light. And actually it was me that he was wanting to forgive him. So he had to explain his side of the story. He had to explain himself, and he then asked me for forgiveness. And at that point I had to give him forgiveness, because it was the only thing at that point that was holding my grief to Africa. It was the only thing at that point, because I'd got Christian, I'd returned him home, he'd told me all his story. I had the full story, and the only thing that was holding me back was forgiveness for this man and his actions, which I was able to forgive him because I had to, and it released me. And Christian then reached down and actually took the man up into the light. So Christian, what are you going to say here? It's like all sins can be forgiven. It's like it holds you more not to forgive. Okay, so this whole, all around this episode is this cleansing and actually allowing everything to come out, because once a wound is cleansed, then the light and the air can get in and actually heal it properly. There's definitely more on this, and like truly seeing and truly trusting people, and having that real purity, and it's a ritual. This is a grief ritual that Christian and I have worked through. It's a grief release, and I'm talking about release now. I'm also thinking that this session now will also release like the rest of the episodes for the podcast as we go on. That was the last thing I needed. Margaret's gift of the purity in her heart, and I don't hold her anymore within me, so there's a purity within me now. So we'll see where this goes, but all I know is that it has to be playful and it has to flow. So these podcasts, they can't be serious and heavy. The grief as a subject is obviously serious, but has the metaphor of the painting of grief. I'm looking at the painting and describing, seeing the good in grief and seeing what can be gained from grief. What is it telling you, and how it can be released. That's what I'm here for. I'm not here to carry the grief anymore. So we'll see where this goes. I really do feel that this is now going to be released and to fly free, this podcast. So if anyone listening kind of feels they really would like to get in touch with me, please do come to finderoflostthingspodcast.com and leave a message, have a chat. And yeah, I feel this is something big is being opened out now, so we'll see where it goes. So thank you so much, everybody, for listening. I hope you enjoyed my story, and have a lovely week. Lots of love, and I'll see you next week. Okay, bye-bye.